Come on, man! Come on, man! Ooh, that Georgia playing, woo!
Yeah, good morning. It's Uncle Lou here. That's right. It is me, Uncle Lou, live on YouTube for you. Thanks for watching. This is the college football kickoff show. Not week 14. Not week 14. Not week 14. It is Week 15. Where is it? There it is. Let's change that. Let's fix that. I'm a real professional. You can already tell I'm running a little behind this morning. I apologize for that. But anyway, how's everybody doing? Happy Saturday morning. Happy Conference Championship Saturday. Several Conference Championship games last night. Some of you hung out with us and watched those games. Shout out to James Madison. They won last night. James Madison just needs Duke to win today, and James Madison will be headed to the playoffs. Unbelievable. Tulane is headed to the playoffs after taking care of North Texas last night. So if you're keeping track at home in terms of how many times somebody has made the playoffs, it's Tulane 1, Florida 0. We can't make the playoffs, but Tulane can. Let's go get their coach. But only if we can't get the guy that we really want. Kennesaw State picked up a conference championship last night. Shout out to Kennesaw State. They beat Jacksonville State. And UNLV came up short yet again. All they do is lose to Boise State. Damn, UNLV, man, what are they doing? That Dan Mullen. Dan Mullen can't beat UNLV or can't beat Boise State. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? UNLV finishes the season 10-3 with 2 losses to Boise State, one in the regular season and one yesterday in the conference championship game. So Boise State repeats as the winner of the Mountain West, but they're out of it in terms of college football playoffs. Tulane is definitely in as one of the highest 4-ranked conference champions, and it's going to come down to the ACC championship game today. If Virginia wins, they, of course, will finish ahead of James Madison and will be the 5th conference champion in the playoffs. If Duke beats Virginia, James Madison will most likely finish ahead of Duke. And you're going to have 2 group of 5 teams in the college football playoffs if Duke somehow manages to win today. And then we have the 4 conference championship games. The 4 major conference championship games coming up today. There is a 5th conference championship game today as well. Miami of Ohio takes on Western Michigan. Yeah, in the MAC championship. Which is, do you suck but not quite enough to be in the bottom half of the Big Ten? Join the MAC. Miami of Ohio at Western Michigan. That game comes on at noon. And then you got the 4 major conference championship games today, starting at noon with BYU and Texas Tech. I don't think BYU is in unless they win today. They're currently out at 11. Because they would get replaced by a conference champion if they don't win today. If they win today, then most likely BYU and Texas Tech would both be in the playoffs. Texas Tech is 4. I don't think they would drop out of the top 10 with a loss to BYU today. So, of course, if that happens, that will solve the Miami-Notre Dame problem because neither one of them will be in if BYU wins today. Miami and Notre Dame would both be out. That game comes on at noon on ABC. It's the biggest point spread of the day with Texas Tech favored by 12.5. The over-under is 49.5. I'll go through and give you my thoughts on the games in a little bit. Then you've got the 4 o'clock game, the SEC Championship, another rematch, BYU Texas Tech, a rematch from earlier in the season, as is this one, Georgia and Alabama at 4. This is going to be the Patreon stream today. Make sure if you're signed up over on the Patreon page that you tune into today's stream, specifically at halftime. We're giving away $500 today on the Patreon stream. $500 given away at halftime of the SEC Championship game today right here on YouTube because 'tis the season. Yeah, 'tis the season. Georgia and Alabama Georgia, a 1.5-point favorite. That game opened up at 1.5. It was bet up to 2.5. It's now back down to 1.5. The over-under 48.5. And then coming up in prime time, we've got not one but two conference championship games for you, both the Big Ten and the ACC. Starting first with the ACC, you've got Duke versus Virginia. This game played in Charlotte every year. Another rematch of a regular season game that was played just a couple of weeks ago. Virginia handled Duke 34-17. Vegas expecting a much closer game today with Virginia favored by 4. Your over-under sits at 57.5. And then you've got Indiana and Ohio State, the only two 12-0 teams here at the end of the regular season. They did not play in the regular season, so this will be the first time we've got to see these two teams face off. Ohio State fresh off of a program-defining win over Michigan last weekend in their rivalry game. Indiana breezed through the regular season, including a win on the road at Oregon, their most impressive win of the year for sure. I think this is going to be a good game. So does Vegas. Ohio State favored by 3.5. This thing started at 5.5, has come all the way down to 3.5. So most of the money going on Indiana in that one. Your total sits at 46.5. So there you go. Those are the that's the lineup for today's conference championship games. We'll talk about all of those games today. We will also, of course, talk about our food choices for the day, which is very important when it comes to a college football Saturday. What you're eating is almost just as important as what you're watching when it comes to college football Saturday. Now, I jumped the gun yesterday and had a steak dinner. So I sort of blew my load, so to speak, yesterday with the eating the damn steak. There's not much I can do today. There's nothing better than a steak dinner. One of the ladies' sons had a birthday, and we took him out to eat yesterday, and he wanted to go to, not T-Bones, unfortunately, or I could have had Tommy Fries. He wanted to go to Longhorn Steakhouse, so we took him to Longhorn's. Uncle Lou had him a 20-ounce bone-in ribeye. Medium. Waitress comes over, drops the steak off. She goes, "You going to need any sauce for that?" I said, "I certainly hope not." And she knew what I meant. She goes, "Oh, yeah, I hear you. Yeah, I hear you. If the steak is good, you don't need no sauce." That's right. You dummies out here drowning your steak in ketchup and A1 or anything else, you need to learn how to cook a steak. If you have to put something on your steak in order to eat it after you cook it, you didn't cook it right. I don't know what else to tell you, bud. I don't know what else to tell you. So I had a steak, some French fries, and a salad last night at Longhorn. So I don't have any idea what I'm eating today. I'll get y'all to help me figure that out here later in the show when we get around to that segment. And we're going to talk about some best bets. We got to figure out a way to make some money today. Now, I've been on an absolute heater with this pay-Lou situation, Lou versus the bookie. I've been destroying the bookie. He's in a bad way. He's done signed himself up for Toys for Tots and the whole deal. I've beat him 9 out of the last 11 weeks. But it ain't looking good for your boy Uncle Lou this week. And there's only 4 games today. So it's not like we can afford to lose a couple of early games and maybe you make it up later or whatever like that. I'm in a hole here this week. So we got to dig out of it today. So we'll try to find some best bets and some way to hopefully make some money on these college football games. If you want a great way to make some money on these college football games, download the Sleeper app. You'll be glad you did. It's America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. You don't even have to worry with who's winning or losing the games. All you have to do is pick player stats, more or less. You can stack your picks over on Sleeper, 3, 4, 5, 6 picks into one play, whatever you want. You can win up to 1,000 times your money, and they've got a couple of great promotions going right now. Sign up with a new account, and they're going to match your first deposit dollar for dollar. So you deposit $100, you've now got $200 in your account. You get the idea. Also, if you create a new account with the promo code LOU, they're going to give you a free $20 play. You don't have to deposit anything at all. You got to deposit nothing. Just download the app using the description in the video, create a new account, use that promo code LOU, L-O-U, and like magic, $20 will appear in your Sleeper account, and you can make you a free play today. That's right. That's right. And we got something brand new coming for the playoffs from Sleeper that I think y'all are going to like. And it's open to everyone, whether you got a new account or not. So we'll start talking about that next week. But download the Sleeper app. They've been kind enough to sponsor the kickoff show this season. So let's help support the people that are supporting the show. Download the Sleeper app today. You'll be glad you did. Franklin flipped 10 Penn State recruits. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all. Thank you, Dragonfly Jones. Penn State signed 2 people on signing day. 2. They had the 150th ranked class in the country on Wednesday. I haven't looked yesterday or today to see if they've made up the difference somehow or signed people since then. But at the end of the day on Wednesday, they had the 150th ranked class in the country with 2 signees. Penn State did. So, yeah, they're down bad. They're in a bad way. They're poverty. However we want to describe it there. That's what they are. All right, let's take roll and see who's here this morning, and then we will talk about some of these conference championship games. Let's see. Tequila Sunrise, Morty Cards, Free American, Eric, Lawn Tractor Life, JJ, Rocky Dennis. Dang, isn't that from the show? What was the name of that show, that movie, where Cher was the mom and the boy had the fucked up face? Is that you, Rocky Dennis? That was his name in the show, was Rocky Dennis. The Mask, yeah. Wasn't the kid with the fucked up face, wasn't his name Rocky Dennis in that movie? Is that you, bud? I thought you died like 40 years ago. Is that really your name, or are you naming yourself after a deformed person? Or maybe you don't want to answer. Mr. Bucknut, Matt Dummett, Ken Southard. Yeah, Jay Shipes. What's up, buddy? Robert Hurt, Hogman, By Insanity. Yeah. Gamecock Orbit is here, which is important to note. K-Dog KC is here. Kirby needs to step up today and become Bama's daddy. Well, he can't become Bama's daddy today, but he can beat him today and take a step towards eventually maybe doing. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think Kirby will coach long enough to have a winning record against Bama. I think we just have to accept the fact as Georgia fans that Kirby's going to retire with a losing record to Bama. They don't play every year. And, I mean, right now he'd have to beat them, what, is it 6 or, what's Kirby's record against Bama now, 1-7? Is it 1-7 or 1-8? He'd have to beat them 6 or 7 times in a row to tie it. And look, I'm a Georgia fan, and Kirby's the best coach in football today, but we're just going to have to accept the fact that Kirby's going to retire with a losing record to Bama. I mean, it's just what it is. They don't play enough, and I don't think, does anybody think Bama's about to become a 5-win team that can't beat anybody anytime soon? I mean, I wish they would, but I don't think that. They're going to probably be some amount of good almost every year. So I don't know. It just seems, we probably just have to accept that as Georgia fans, that he's going to retire with a losing record to Bama. I hate it, but I mean, 1-7 is a steep hill to climb, and Kirby's got no one to blame but him own self. That's right, because in about 5 of those 7 losses, Georgia was winning at halftime. Who can tell me what it means when you're winning at halftime and losing the game? What does that generally mean? Not 100% of the time, but generally that means you're getting outcoached. So it's on Kirby, and that's his cross to bear, so to speak. And I love Kirby. I think he's the best coach in football today. You won't find a bigger Kirby cheerleader than me. But come on, nobody's perfect. Nobody's perfect. There's teams that Nick Saban has a losing record to. Okay. Now watch, the Alabama fans are going to get mad about that. Watch. Either that or they'll just lie and say there's nobody he has a losing record to. Uncle Lou in his comment section would like to welcome back SBC legend Sunbelt Billy. Welcome back home, Billy. Yeah, he's at James Madison now. Billy Napier back at James Madison. How come no one told me on Thursday during the call-in show that Chris Kleiman retired from Kansas State? He just said, fuck it. Don't feel like working anymore. And he's in his mid-50s. He's not 80 years old. I mean, he's free to retire whenever he wants. You know, not every coach wants to work till they're 80 and then die the next year like Bear Bryant. There was another, what was the other coach that, Chris Peterson. Chris Peterson was the last coach that, like, I was surprised he retired. He was relatively young too. But yeah, Chris Kleiman retired. Just said, fuck it, I'm done here. Fuck Manhattan, Kansas, I'm out. Yeah. Dang. So they brought in Colin Klein. They're trying to confuse people with the coaching names that they're using. They've gone from Chris Kleiman to Colin Klein. It's the whole, what are the two actors' names? Delmit Mulroney and Dermot McDillon or whatever. Have y'all seen that Saturday Night Live skit about Delmit Mulroney and Delmit McDermott or whatever? It got rid of Chris Kleiman and hired Colin Klein, just to confuse you there. Just to confuse you, yeah. That's why they went ahead and did that. How's everybody doing? Everybody ready for a great day of college football today? Pick an upset. Give me an underdog that's going to win outright today. So is it BYU? Is it Bama? Is it Indiana? Is it Duke? If you had to pick one underdog to win outright today. BYU is really the only underdog today that has something to really gain by winning, you know. Bama and Georgia are both in no matter what. Indiana, Ohio State are in no matter what. And Duke can't get in. So BYU is the underdog with the most to play for today. I think Indiana might keep it close with Ohio State. It's hard for me. The talent gap is, I mean, look, Indiana's a great team. They're well coached. Mendoza's playing at a high level. They could win the game. It's hard for me to get over the talent gap between Ohio State and Indiana. But Ohio State is coming off an emotional win against Michigan last week. Maybe it took something out of them. I don't know. Maybe they start out a little slow. I don't know. There's also a possibility that this thing just snowballs on Indiana and it gets out of control and, you know, they fall behind by a couple of touchdowns and they have to start throwing the ball and Ohio State can rush the passer. And, you know, next thing you know, Ohio State's winning by 3 touchdowns. I don't know. And then obviously I think the Georgia-Bama game, Bama's clearly got a chance to win this one. They've already beat them once this year. We just talked about, you know, the Georgia's record against Bama under Kirby Smart. But I have picked Georgia to win that one. And no, I don't pick Georgia to win every game. I don't pick Georgia to beat Bama every time. In fact, I picked Bama to win this year in the regular season, and I picked Bama to win last year in the regular season. So I'm actually 2 for 2 on my picks in the last 2 Georgia-Bama games. Hopefully, I can make it 3 for 3 because I am going with Georgia today. I think the improved pass rush that we've seen from Georgia over the last 5 weeks of the season is going to be a big key in the game today. Georgia had no pass rush at all against Bama in that first game back in September. If you'll remember, Georgia was next to last in sacks in the entire country when that game was played, and they just got no pressure at all on Ty Simpson. He sat in the pocket making ham sandwiches and throwing darts to Jeremy Bernard for the majority of the game. So the improved pass rush from Georgia, combined with a couple of stats from that game that are just so one-sided, I find it hard to believe it would break that way again. Bama was 13 of 16 on third downs in that game. That's just an unbelievable number. You can go back and look at almost any game you want from any week during the season involving any team, and you're not going to find very many 13 of 16 on third downs. That is third down efficiency at a ridiculous rate. Georgia, on the other hand, in that same game, I believe, was 2 for 8 on third downs, which is ridiculously low. So that's way under Georgia's average for third downs offensively, way over Alabama's average for third downs offensively. I think it's likely that both of those numbers come back more towards the middle. And when you look at the last game, you know, of course, it ended up being a 3-point game. One or two third down conversions that end up being punts instead of first downs can be the difference in a close game like that. Alabama's inability to run the ball, I think, will hamper them again, as it has in a lot of games over the course of this season. They're without Jam Miller. They're starting running back. They're without their starting tight end. They're missing a couple of key players. So is Georgia. Georgia's going to be without their starting center, Drew Bobo, which, if the second half against Georgia Tech last week is any indication, is a massive problem. So hopefully they figured something out during the week, whether it's blocking schemes or double teams or whatever it is to help out at the center position, because it was not good last week when Drew Bobo went out. C.J. Allen is playing but banged up. Chauncey Bowens, I'm assuming, will play today, although it's been a couple of weeks since we've seen him at running back. So, look, it's week 15. Everybody's got players that are banged up, hurt, injured, whatever it is. It's got to just be the next man up mentality. But I do think it's going to be a good game between Georgia and Bama. I think it'll probably be a one-possession game in the fourth quarter, and we'll see what happens. But I do have a feeling Georgia finds a way to get it done today. There's some discussion about what might happen to Alabama if they lose this game. I think what's going to happen to Alabama if they lose this game is that they're going to be playing a first-round playoff game. I don't see any scenario where the playoff committee is going to take a team, in this case Bama, who is currently in the playoff, ranked inside the top 10, and then move them outside of that because they lose a conference championship game to a top 4 team. I don't see that happening. If that does happen, I don't think you'll ever see another conference championship game ever again, at least not under the current format. I know for a fact the SEC won't do it anymore. I just don't think the committee would do that. The other question involving this game, what if Bama wins? How far up will they rise, and how far will Georgia fall? I think clearly Georgia would fall out of the top 4. I don't think they would fall out of the top 8. So if Bama wins, I think Georgia, instead of getting a bye, would get a home playoff game on December 20th. And I don't know if Alabama will jump all the way into the top 4 or if they will settle in the 5 or 6 spot. Oregon could move into the top 4. Obviously, if Texas Tech wins today, they could move into the top 4. I think Ohio State and Indiana are both going to finish in the top 4 no matter who wins or loses that game. I think if Bama wins, it will probably come down to Bama and Oregon for the 4 spot. Oregon has less losses. They're 11-1. Bama is 10-2. If they win today, they'd be 11-2. So do they slide Oregon up to 4 because they have less losses and leave Bama at 5, or do they reward Bama for winning a conference championship game to the point where they pass Oregon and move into the top 4? That's, I think, a fair debate to have. I'm not sure. I have a feeling Bama would move to the 4 spot, but I wouldn't be surprised if they settled at the 5. Most of your other playoff spots are pretty settled. You know, you're going to have Texas A&M, Ole Miss, and Oregon, obviously, in addition to Indiana, Ohio State, Georgia, Bama. The 2 more conference winners are guaranteed a spot. If Virginia wins, they will get a spot. If Virginia loses, James Madison gets that spot. And then you've got Tulane, who will get a spot. They defeated North Texas last night. So, to me, the only real question about who's getting in or not is sort of centers around the same debate we've been having for the last few weeks, which is Notre Dame and Miami. Notre Dame is obviously in right now. Miami's right on the outside looking in. There's a couple of different trains of thought about that. One of them is, hey, Notre Dame's not playing this week. Neither is Miami. Therefore, there's nothing that can happen that can cause Miami to move ahead of Notre Dame. That may end up being true, and Notre Dame gets in if BYU loses. If BYU wins, of course, none of this matters. If BYU wins, neither Miami or Notre Dame, either one is getting in. So this conversation is assuming Texas Tech beats BYU and BYU is out. But the other line of thinking would be, well, if BYU loses by 2 or 3 touchdowns and they drop BYU a spot, that would put Miami and Notre Dame right next to each other in the playoff rankings, and the committee would no longer be able to ignore the head-to-head result, given the fact that they have the same record and Miami beat Notre Dame. So they then would move Miami also ahead of Notre Dame. I think that's what they should do. I think they should have done that 3 weeks ago. I haven't changed my mind. I'm not going to change my mind. If the final rankings come out tomorrow and Notre Dame is in and Miami is out, I'm going to think the playoff committee made the wrong decision. And there will be no changing my mind on that. I don't think there's any metric or statistic or hypothetical that you can point to that is more important than a head-to-head result. And I think we have to be careful about getting to a point where we value things like who would be favored or game control matrix or whatever above and beyond an on-field result. Obviously, all of those advanced metrics and statistics have a place when it comes to ranking teams, but it's been widely accepted since the beginning of time when it comes to competitive sport that the very first tiebreaker, when you're trying to differentiate between teams with similar resumes or the same record, the very first tiebreaker is head-to-head, and it's been that way since the beginning of time. All of those other advanced metrics and stats that you hear thrown around, strength of schedule, strength of record, game control, common opponent winning percentage, all of these kinds of things, those are all designed to utilize when there is no head-to-head result to examine. So I feel like if we get to a point in college football or any sport for that matter where you're valuing anything more than a head-to-head result, then you are risking putting the sport into a position where head-to-head results don't matter. And it just comes down to what do a room full of people think? And again, a lot of the rankings do come down to that, but it's because the teams haven't played each other. I've used the example a million times, but why is Ohio State 1 and Indiana 2? Right? They have the same record. They're both 12-0. Why isn't Indiana number 1? Well, strength of schedule, strength of record, best wins, whatever, game control matrix. You have to look at all those things to try to determine who you should rank higher between Ohio State and Indiana because they have the same record and they haven't played. But in the case of Notre Dame and Miami, they have played, and I just think it's completely ridiculous if it gets down to one playoff spot for Notre Dame and Miami, and they've got the same record, and they played, and Miami beat them. I think it's a slippery slope to say, well, we know Miami beat them when they played, but we think this or we think that, so we're going to put Notre Dame in because what we think is more important than what we know. I just disagree with that. And we'll see what happens tomorrow with all that. Now, the cleanest scenario for the playoff committee would be for BYU to win today. That's probably what the committee is hoping for. The committee is probably hoping that BYU just somehow beats Texas Tech. That way, the committee doesn't have to decide which one gets into the playoffs between Notre Dame and Miami because neither will get in if BYU wins today. So if you're a conspiracy theorist about fixing games or rigged games or whatever, and you think the committee has some sort of godlike powers in college football, then you should put all your money on BYU. Right? Right. Don't forget about the rigged wheel coming up at the end of the show. Any Cash App, any PayPal, we will add your name to the rigged wheel at the end of the show. What is the rigged wheel? Glad you asked. It's literally just a wheel. We add your name, everybody's name around the wheel. We spin the wheel. The wheel lands on a name. That person gets to make a pick today on any game they want against the spread or the over-under. And if you get that pick right, I will reward you for supporting the channel by sending you back twice whatever you sent me. The rigged wheel coming up at the end of the show. Yeah, big facts. Big facts. All right, let's go through the games, and I'll tell you what I'm thinking here. We'll start with the noon games. BYU versus Texas Tech. This one's in Jerry World. These two teams played 3 weeks ago, I think it was, and BYU won the game. No. They played a little over a month ago. BYU won the game. It wasn't particularly close either. The final score ended up being 29-7. BYU really struggled offensively in this game. Most of you probably watched this game. This was a big game. Even when it happened, BYU had an interception and 2 fumbles. So 3 turnovers really hurt BYU in this game. In addition to that, even when they didn't turn the ball over, they just really had a hard time moving the ball offensively. The quarterback did not have a good day, 23 of 38 for 188 yards. They only ran the ball for 67 yards. They actually played pretty good defense, holding Texas Tech to 29 points. If you look at their point totals over the course of the season, holding Texas Tech to 29 points, especially considering you gave them 3 free possessions with turnovers, is not bad. They only had 219 passing, 149 rushing. So, not a terrible offensive performance from Texas Tech, but relative to the rest of the games they played, BYU defensively played okay. If they can avoid the turnovers, I think they've got a chance here. I think they've got a chance. They're obviously all on the line for BYU, so there is no tomorrow. So, you're going to get BYU's best effort. Their head coach just signed a big raise and extension after interviewing with Penn State. So, plenty of reason for BYU to show up today. I've been on Texas Tech all year. It's hard for me to change my mind now. They've been an absolute wagon. They've covered every single week this season except for the week that they lost. On the road at Arizona State in a game where they played a backup quarterback. Their starter was hurt. But they have covered the rest of the games they have played, Texas Tech has. They're a big favorite today, though. They are a big favorite today, 12.5, by far the biggest spread of the day in any of these conference championship games. So I have not bet this game yet. I probably will just because I'm sick. I do think Texas Tech wins the game. I have not made up my mind yet on a bet one way or the other at 12.5. But I do think it'll be a good game and interesting for sure. Notre Dame fans will be watching it, and Miami for sure. They don't have anything else to do today. Notre Dame fans and Miami fans. You know why? One of them's not good enough to make their conference championship game, and the other one's too scared to play in one. Shout out to Notre Dame fans and Miami fans who will be tuned into the Big 12 championship game today for obvious reasons. Miami of Ohio and Western Michigan. I like Western Michigan to win, and the line is only 1.5. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about this game because nobody cares about it, but I have bet on this game already. I like Western Michigan to cover the spread. The SEC championship game, you already know I like Georgia in this one by 1.5. I'd probably take the money line as opposed to even betting this. So actually, I probably will bet the game. I don't even know why I had to sit here and think about it. I think Georgia wins today. More balanced offensively. Their defense is much better now than it was when this game was played the first time. I think they'll have a little more success getting pressure on Ty Simpson than they had the first go-around. And I think Georgia finds a way to get it done in Atlanta and repeats as SEC champions, but I do think that will be a great game. That game's at 4, and then you get to the 2 primetime games, the Big 12 and the ACC. We'll start with the ACC. I don't know why Virginia's only favored by 4. I'm having a hard time understanding this. It's almost making me think it's one of those deals where you go, what does Vegas know that I don't know? Now, there is the weird trend in the ACC where whoever's been sort of on top of the ACC in any given week just finds a way to lose every week. You know, Miami was in first place in the ACC for a while. Then they lost on the road to SMU, and then Georgia Tech was in first place for a while, and they lost to NC State or whoever it was. And then SMU was in first place last week, and they lost to Cal. Now Duke's in first place. Do they lose to Virginia? Virginia's in first place. Do they lose to Duke? a 7-5 Duke team with multiple group of 5 losses. They beat them 34-17 2 weeks ago. So this isn't a situation where they played early in the year and you're trying to say somebody's way better now than they were then. They played 2 weeks ago at Duke, and Duke lost 34-17. So it's a little strange to me that the line is only 4, but I'm going to go ahead and admit to you now, I'm going to fall for it. I'm taking Virginia minus the points. I'm taking Virginia minus the points. I think Virginia wins and punches their ticket to the college football playoff and eliminates James Madison from the college football playoff. Am I wrong? And then the Big Ten championship game tonight. I hope this is a good game because it sure does have the potential to be. And it's a matchup everybody's been wanting to see all year. Ohio State and Indiana. This is like a wet dream for the who have they played crowd. You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
Georgia played, woo!
This is a literal wet dream for the who have they played crowd. Oh, Indiana's 12-0, one on the road at Oregon. That ain't no big deal. Who have they played? Oh, they beat Iowa in the rain? Yeah, but who have they played? Oh, they won on the road at Penn State at night in a whiteout game? Oh, yeah, I know, but who have they played? Whatever, you know. And in Ohio State, oh, look, they barely beat Texas. They ain't played nobody since then. Who have they played? Well, today they play somebody. So to the who have they played crowd, I'm sure you'll be tuned in this game. Of course, we all know what the who have they played crowd's going to do? Don't you know? Please, you have to know. You have to know what the who have they played crowd's going to do, right? Whoever loses this game today, the who have they played crowd is going to go, see? I told you. Soon as they played a good team, they lost. Ohio State and Indiana are both really good. I don't know how much y'all have watched of either of those two teams, but I'm telling you, this ain't last year's Indiana team. This ain't last year's Indiana team, bud. I think Ohio State's better, more talented. I think if these two teams played 10 times, Ohio State would win 7 or 8 out of 10, you know. But they don't play 10 times. They play once, and it's today at 8 o'clock. And I'm torn on this one. Ohio State coming off of that Michigan win does worry me a little if I'm an Ohio State fan. How do they, rebound from that, come down from the high to refocus and get ready for a tough Indiana team, But then another part of me says, like I mentioned earlier, that you could have a snowball effect here in this game where Ohio State's obvious skill advantage, particularly on the outside, just overwhelms Indiana, and they find themselves in a situation where they're down 14 points in the second quarter. They sort of abandon their game plan and start leaning on the pass, and Mendoza's great, but so is Ohio State's defense. And against any defense, when they know you're going to throw the ball, why is it so hard to convert on 3rd and 8? Well, one reason is it's harder to gain 8 yards than it is 2. So, 3rd and 2 is easier than 3rd and 8 because 2 yards is shorter than 8 yards. But one of the reasons it's so hard to convert on 3rd and 8 is because the defense knows you're going to throw the ball. So the defensive linemen aren't worried about the run game. They pin their ears back, go after the quarterback. Well, if you're Indiana, or anybody else for that matter, and you fall down 10, 14, 17 points in the second or third quarter of a game, and the losing team's got to abandon the run and start throwing the ball to try to get themselves back in the game, that gives the defense an advantage to pin their ears back. And I don't know if a defense as good as Ohio State's, I don't know if you want them in a situation where they know you have to throw the ball. That could get ugly. So I'm torn on that one. I did bet Indiana plus 5.5 early in the week. And I'll be honest, part of the reason why is because I'm just hoping it's a good game. It's the primetime game. It's a conference championship game. It's 2 undefeated teams at 12-0. It's 2 teams that I think are legitimate national title contending top 4 or 5 teams in the country, even at the end of the year. And so I just want it to be a good game. So I did bet Indiana plus 5.5. but I'm worried about what might happen to Indiana if they fall behind. But it'll be a good one. So anyway, that's my rundown, my thoughts on the games. Y'all can let me know what you think in the comments section about those matchups today. But I think we're going to have some good games. I think the SEC championship game and the Big Ten championship game in particular have the potential to be really good games. I wouldn't be surprised if Virginia pulled away from Duke. I wouldn't be surprised if Texas Tech pulled away from BYU. Now, those games may end up being close, too. This is why we play the games. You don't know what's going to happen. But I would be surprised and honestly a little disappointed if the SEC championship game and Big Ten championship game didn't both end up being fourth quarter games that are worth watching to the end. Indy has Saban level discipline. If you do anything wrong, they will dominate you. Yeah, a lot of hallmarks of a very well coached team. A lot of the things that people have been saying about Utah for a long time, I think apply to this Indiana team. They don't beat themselves. They don't make mistakes. They don't turn the ball over. They don't commit penalties. They don't give up free yards. They don't have blown coverages. They don't miss assignments. Hallmarks of really, really well-coached teams. You hear that about Utah a lot. Now, this Indiana team is probably better than almost any Utah team we've ever seen. But, I mean, those are the same types of things people say about Utah. I think a lot of those things apply to Indiana, too. Brian Hartline, New South Florida coach. Yes. Yes. When UJ wins today, it will be because Ty Simpson is running for his life. I think that has to be a big part of Georgia's game plan. I mean, they let him sit in the pocket in that regular season game, and he diced UGA up. Now, Georgia's secondary is playing better now than it was then, and the pass rush is obviously better now than it was then. So, both of those things are going to have to show up today. And the offense, the defense has been good. The Georgia Tech game, the score was a lot closer than people wanted it to be, but the defense played great in that Georgia Tech game. Georgia Tech's got a top 5 offense, points, total yards, whatever stats you want to look at. They lit it up. And against Georgia, only managed 3 field goals, didn't get into the end zone. So the defense played well, but the offense cannot have another performance like it had last week. Cannot. Gunnar Stockton had by far the worst game of his career last week against Georgia Tech. That cannot happen again, or Georgia will lose, despite the improved pass rush. Georgia's got Gunnar Stockton's going to have to play at a high level. UJ definitely has the better team, but it is Bama. Hard to predict. Yeah, that's the problem. A lot of those 7 losses that Kirby has toted to Bama have been situations where Georgia had the better team. 2 or 3 of them at least. I don't even think the Bama fans would argue with that. Not having Bobo threw off our offense. That's why I think we lose today. I'm really impressed with how Mello Jones have come along. I don't even know who that is. I'm going to be honest with you. Georgia needs to score 7 and need to hold Bama to 3. What? I don't think either of those things are happening. Georgia needs to score 30 and hold Bama to 20. Who is Mississippi State playing today? Maybe Purdue or LSU in a Who Can't Win a Game Bowl. Yeah, unfortunately, Sven, there is no Mississippi State game today, bud. Now, the Bulldogs are playing, but they're wearing red and black, not maroon and white. So sorry about that, bud. Playing a conference championship game doesn't mean you're a better team. Better than who? You're a Notre Dame fan. Who you think is a better team is irrelevant. You think on-field results don't matter. So what you think about who's a better team is irrelevant. BYU, Mormon, or Catholics team. Notre Dame, 18 days till Jesus to Catholics. I don't understand what any of that means. I don't think anybody in the comment section will understand what any of that means. And I struggle to believe that you even understand what any of that means that you just typed there. But I'm going to do you a favor and read it again. BYU, period. Mormon, period. Spelled wrong. Or, period. Catholics team, period. ND, period. 18 days till Jesus to Catholics. Are you okay? Do you need to stick a wallet in your mouth so you don't chew your tongue off? I'm concerned about you. I agree with what I've been saying about the playoffs for 2 years. That's what I agree with. Every other playoff plan I hear has some parts that make sense, but then they add in something unnecessarily complicated. I don't know why people feel like they have to do that. Like John Gruden's plan had something like on conference championship weekend, you had other teams playing, but it was non-con games. I don't understand that. Just go to a 4-4-4-4. Just every conference sends 4 teams to the playoffs. It works for every other sport on the planet. So even John Gruden's, which made a lot of sense in a lot of ways, was overly complicated for no reason. All you have to do is play your regular season. At the end of the regular season, you take the 4. You look at the SEC standings at the end of the regular season. You take the highest 4 teams, they're in. If you want to do something on conference championship weekend, then you take the top 2 teams in the conference and you tell them, hey, guess what? You don't have to play on conference championship weekend. You're in the playoffs. Then you take team 3 and you make them play team 6. You take team 4, you make them play team 5 today, conference, what we now call conference championship Saturday. The 3rd team in the SEC plays the 6th team in the SEC. The 4 team in the SEC plays the 5 team in the SEC. The 2 winners of those games join the 1 and the 2 from the SEC, and those are the SEC's 4 teams in the playoffs. Every conference does the same thing. You've got a 16-team playoff, 4 teams from each conference, and that gives the top 6 teams in each conference the ability to make the playoffs. So if the team that finishes 7th in the SEC wants to whine and cry, they can go fuck themselves. Don't finish 7th in your own conference. I don't know why a lot of people just have this never-ending need to overcomplicate the postseason and how we pick it and decide it. I don't know. Yeah, nobody's played nobody. Yes, 4 Big 12 teams to the playoff, like every other sport on earth. Hey, Lou, do you think Florida hire any good head coach? Yeah, Steve Spurrier and Urban Meyer. Your model could undermine big non-con games in the regular season. Have you been paying attention? Nobody wants to play big non-con games anymore. Texas played a big non-con game, lost, and is blaming that on not being in the playoffs. Miami played a big non-con game, won the game, and is blaming that on not being in the playoffs. So it doesn't even matter whether you win or lose your big non-con game. If you don't make the playoffs, you blame the non-con game. So who gives a shit? As far as who makes the playoffs, it comes down to conferences. You might see more big non-con games because they won't have any impact on you making the college football playoff. Texas could play Ohio State in week 1 and lose 100-0. As long as they finish in the top 4 in the SEC, they're in the playoffs. It wouldn't matter that they lost to Ohio State. When Michigan got beat by Oklahoma in the beginning of the season, that wouldn't have mattered. If Michigan finished in the top 4 of the Big Ten standings, they'd be in the playoffs. So I don't know why you think that would lead to a change in philosophy on scheduling non-con games. Send highest ranked 12 teams. No Indy or G5 auto bids. What about Power 4 auto bids? Highest ranked teams according to who? The playoff committee that everybody hates? So you like the playoff committee. Okay. You don't have any problem with the playoff committee. You're in the minority. Most people hate the playoff committee. They don't watch the games. They don't know what they're doing. There's no consistency in how they rank teams. But I am excited to have finally met somebody that likes the playoff committee. That's the first time I've ever seen that. Just go back to the BCS. So just let a computer put a ranking out and one plays two and that's it. You know that's not happening. No auto bids. So you love the committee. Okay. You're the only person I've ever met that loves the committee. Thoughts on Vandy being in or out? Who who are they gonna take out to put Vandy in? Notre Dame. Yeah, Kennesaw State won last night. Beat Jacksonville State. We watched it. It was a good game. Got a little sketchy at the end. Kennesaw State was up 12-0 with like 8 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, and Jacksonville State scored 2 touchdowns in about a 2-minute period and a 2-point conversion to take the lead 15-12 with like a minute and a half to go. Kennesaw State got the ball, went right down the field, scored a touchdown, and won the game. Yeah, Georgia will get, if Georgia loses today, they'll get a home playoff game. Yeah. Which honestly wouldn't hurt my feelings. I think every college football fan wants to see their team play a home playoff game at some point. I mean, I hope Georgia wins and gets the bye and all that because I like Georgia to win and I want to win the SEC championship. But if Georgia loses, um, it's not going to be the end of the world for me. I think everybody wants to see their team play a home playoff game at some point. The atmospheres are just unbelievable in these home playoff games. I do too. I wish it was home playoff games until the sim. I do too. 100%. 100%. It would make it a lot more affordable for people too. You wouldn't have to buy plane tickets and hotels for 3 and 4 days to travel across the United States during Christmas time. Think about how much money it would cost to follow your team during a playoff run. You know what I'm saying? Think about the money you'd have to spend. 4 plane tickets. Could be 5 if you want to go to the conference championship game too. Could be 5. But 4 or 5 sets of plane tickets, 4 or 5 hotel rooms for 2 or 3 days. We haven't even got to the cost of the tickets. When a loss gets you a home playoff game, something is seriously wrong. So what should happen to the loser of Ohio State or Indiana? You think Georgia should fall to 9 if they're 11-2 with a loss in the SEC championship game? So you would put Oklahoma, who didn't even play, wasn't even good enough to make their conference championship game. You would give Oklahoma a home playoff game, and you would make Georgia play on the road because they were good enough to get to the SEC championship game but lost. That's one of the dumbest things I've seen this morning, and I've seen some dumb shit, but that's near the top of the list. You think a 12-0 or an 11-1 team that loses their conference championship game should fall below 8 to 9, 10, 11, or 12? You realize 4 teams are losing conference championship games today, don't you? So the 4 losers of the conference championship game would be ranked 9, 10, 11, and 12. Teams that weren't good enough to make their conference championship game would be ranked 5, 6, 7, and 8. And the winners of the conference championship games would be ranked 1, 2, 3, and 4. Yeah, that's completely retarded there. That's absolutely ridiculous. If Oklahoma advances in the ratings, it loses its home playoff game. That sucks. That's not true. They're ranked 8th. If they move to 7, they still have a home playoff game. If they move to 6, they still have a home playoff game. If they move to 5, they... Is there anybody watching that understands how the college football playoffs work? Let's just spin the wheel. We're just going to spin the wheel. This is getting ridiculous at 10 o'clock in the morning. A bunch of football fans have no idea how college football works. It's really weird. Where is the damn wheel? Oh, here we go. All right. Let's see who's on the wheel today. I got to get out of here before I get even more irritated with y'all. This is alarming. All right, here we go. We have JC. Christopher J. Jackpot. Jay Shippus. Look at that. Oh, down. Good luck, Jay Shippus. William C. Good luck, William C. Only one winner today on the rigged wheel because I'm giving away $500 on the Patreon stream today. Unless I cancel my YouTube channel before then because I get tired of reading dumb comments in the comment section, which hopefully doesn't happen. All right, there we go. All right, that's everybody's name on the wheel. Now we need, let's see, we're going to need a number. Let's see. Yoda T, give me a number 3 through 5. Everybody giving me a number except Yoda T. Yoda T says 5. How did I know you were going to do that? All right, 5 spins today. Let's see who the winner is. That is spin number 1. Spin number 2. Spin number 3. I'm going to start saying, give me a number between 1 and 2. Spin number 4. Jesus Christ was spin number 4. Shout out to JC. And spin number 5. The winner today is Thomas B. And Thomas B likes Texas Tech minus the points. Let me get that written down. Shout out Thomas B. Thank you for helping to support the show this morning, buddy. He likes Texas Tech minus the points. And let's see what the points are. Let's pull it back up. Let's pull it back up. NCAA foosball. Texas Tech minus 12. So it's actually come down some in your favor. It was 13.5. It's down to 12. So Thomas B., you have Texas Tech minus 12 today. Good luck, sir. Rigged wheel. There we go. All right. We all set here? Everybody good? 4 o'clock on Patreon for the SEC championship game, giving away $500. Ho, ho, ho. Or bah humbug or whatever. Might be bah humbug. I don't know. I feel like some of y'all just type dumb stuff in the comment sections just to try to irritate me. If that's what you were doing, congratulations. You succeeded. If you weren't trying to do that and you just happen to be that dumb, you need help. You need help there. There's the link to the Patreon page where I will be live streaming at 4 o'clock for the SEC championship game. And again, we'll be giving away $500 over there. We'll hang out. We'll watch the SEC championship game. The giveaway will be at halftime. So if you're tuning in and out on the Patreon stream, make sure you're around at the end of the second quarter, beginning of halftime. We'll do the giveaway. And then I'll come back on YouTube tonight at 8 o'clock because I absolutely hate myself. And I will live stream the ACC championship game and the Big Ten championship game right here on YouTube. And because I really hate myself, I'll read comments from the comment section while I do it, which is sure to get me extremely aggravated and pissed off in a relatively short period of time. So that'll be tonight at 8 o'clock on YouTube. Hope everybody enjoys your college football Saturday. Good luck to everybody that's playing today, except, of course, Alabama. Unfortunately, I do need Georgia to win today. But everybody else, I hope your team wins. I'll see you at 4 o'clock on the Patreon page for the SEC championship game stream, and 8 o'clock right back here on YouTube for the ACC and the Big Ten. Enjoy your Saturday. Have a